Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Tony Stark Iron Man, issue number 8. Let me get out the good things that I got to say about the comic book first, then we'll get into the heart of the comic book. I've got some very negative things to say about this. First, let's talk about who made this comic book. Not quite related, I hope. So, this is Stark Realities Part 3, Factory Settings. Writer Dan Slott, artist Valerio Scheide. Color artist Edgar Delgado. Letters VC's Joe Caramonga. Cover Alexander Lozano. Variant covers, one by Phil Noto, another by Valerio Scheide and Jason Keith. The graphic designer is Carlos Lau, and of course Iron Man was created by Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, Don Heck, and Jack freaking Kirby. Alright, this first issue of this comic book, yeah, you guys are usually like, hey, what's going on, man? Don't you usually show the preview pages? Yeah, the comic books that I really, really, really want you to buy. This is something entirely different. Maybe I'll show them later. But I see this. Like, here's who Iron Man is. Here's the dressing and the title and all this, the beautiful stuff by Carlos Lau, I imagine. And then here's what's been going on. There's only been 7 issues so far of Iron Man, all right? This is issue 8. But 7 issues of Tony Stark Iron Man so far. But this is all the stuff that they need you to know. Not just a couple of things, no. All of this. That's several paragraphs right there, brah. And then, of course, you know all the people there. So this page right here is very busy. All right, this is very much like, what the frick? God damn, Plus, you already got the bias board with all this crazy stuff on there and whatnot. The lead lines going to, this is obviously a multi-layer bias board. It's cool, but like the page is very busy. And then I turn the page and I see all of this. This is 4 different areas of the world, 3 different countries. And there's a whole lot of writing on here. You can see in some parts, writing actually overlaps, so that, like, they're talking over each other, or talking very quickly over each other. And, there's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful art. But, like, the colors, they're really dark, and they're made to be that dark, so it shows a lot of confusing. And this is a very confusing page. I did not read this. This double-page spread, I did not read this. Okay, I simply didn't. I looked at it, and it was so damned busy. It looked heavily trafficked. I closed the book. I put the book down. I got up. I walked around the apartment a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Checked on, what my kids were doing with my wife. And it's like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? What's up? That's what I did. I came back 2 or so minutes later. Because it was actually that in your face. I don't like when comic books do that. I don't. It kind of set the mood for the comic book, so I get it. But it was just too much. All right? Way too much. So I come back. I still don't read that page because I know it's just too much for me. Maybe I'm just getting old. 43 years old. Maybe I'm just getting old. All right? Then I come over and it's like, oh, Cranberry, New Jersey. I like Cranberry, New Jersey. Cranberry and Dover, New Jersey. I worked north of those cities, lived south of them, and worked north of them. And I remember I had to actually go to Cranberry Township at one point because there was a box company there that, or a packaging company, I should say, and I needed packaging for some, some RF boards and some GPS boards with the digital memory board on there. And I needed proper packaging to send them out as samples to other larger manufacturers, and also to ship them basically down to, don't think I should say the name of the company, but down to a place in the Carolinas that were actually going to mass produce them for us. So that was the only time I ever got to actually hang out in Cranberry. It was wonderful. It's typical of northeastern New Jersey, central to northeastern New Jersey, where you got, everything that you need is within walking distance, pretty much. This was just crazy. This was a crazy book. All of these different things were happening in the book, and there was threats that were technically non-lethal to Iron Man, and therefore not really threats that were happening. They went by fairly quickly. Great chance for the artist to shine. and just do some totally cool things, you know? There's a bit of betrayal in here. Andy Bang, I think that was his name. Yep, he learns the hard way apparently that Bethany Cabe is mind controlled. Tony Stark's digital parents are actually evil, especially the mom, and she's not happy with Tony's birth mom, basically just an egg donor. Like I think she actually calls her that at one point. She calls her something to that, to that effect, which is just like, wow, you are really getting personal. There's like she says at one point, you're not really his mom. Like you just delivered a sack of flesh. I'm the one who molded him and made him into something amazing. You also find out that Friday was killed. That it's actually been Motherboard the whole time. Is that real? Is that fake? I don't know. But that's extremely interesting. Like, wow, intricate storytelling. And then I'm not going to get into what happened at the end of the comic book. Well, I'll get into what happens at the very end of the comic book, but I do like that Machine Man at one point actually becomes something special, because that was cool. I always liked Machine Man. I've got the figure. I just took the figure down. I swear to God, I just took the figure down 2 days ago. And replaced him with the Cloak and Dagger set and the Morbius and Domino thing up there. But anyway, this comic book. There were two things I didn't like about the comic book. One thing I didn't like, one thing I really didn't like. I'm going to get into those now. First off, one more really important compliment. The panel layout. Whoever was in charge of the panel layout in this comic book, this is probably one of the best I've ever seen. There was not one not one moment in this comic book where I reread a panel or read a panel I wasn't supposed to get to yet. Interesting, I always knew where I was supposed to go next. The panel layout in this comic book was God mode. It was above 9,000, all right? It was amazing. So, yeah, I like credit where credit's due, because bang. The thing that I didn't like about this comic book, I don't like comic skaters in general. It's just that it's even the ones who are empathetic and sympathetic, and they seem to have a conscience, and they're not just a bunch of trolls on the internet. Even those guys you associate with really bad company, and a man is known by the company that he keeps. That's facts. All right. Good luck finding people who are not going to say that unless they're like 13 or younger. All right. No, most people are smart enough to understand if you hang out in bad company, you're going to be presumed to be with that bad company. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry I was hanging out with all these Nazis. I happen to be walking by. Well, it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame, because you just got arrested for being a Nazi. Actually, I don't think Nazis get arrested. But anyway, the point is, this was not a fan of comic skaters. Mostly because the ones who are constantly trolling on the internet, they troll really hard, and they expect the responses of these comic book creators to be, well, sir, I'm sorry that you disagree. I'm going to do whatever you want because, you're my boss and you pay me and blah, blah, blah. No, you have the right to shop elsewhere. And there's plenty of competition when it comes to comic books. You know what I'm saying? I've worked retail when I was younger. I had people come in, they were just really mean customers. And at first I would say, You know what I'm saying? Well, I apologize, sir. Is there something I could do to make your experience better? Something along those lines. And then just after the personal and direct insults, I just got to the point where I'm just like, all right, you know what? This is a part-time job that I'm just doing for some extra cash. I get my medical insurance through my other job. I got way better pay through my other job. And I actually enjoy my other job a lot better than this run around and don't sit down retail garbage that I'm doing. So you know what? I just don't like this job enough. So I'm done being nice to this customer. You know what I'm saying? At this point, well, bud, if you don't like it, go someplace else. I'll give you your refund. But I really just want you to leave because you're constantly insulting on me. You're kind of annoying at this point. It's not cute anymore. It's not funny. It's not humorous. I have no interest in being nice to someone who's like, this is basics. This is basic conversational, social communications. You do not respect anyone. You do not show the slightest respect to someone who evidently does not respect you, who blatantly does not show you respect or treat you with respect. All right? If someone will not give you the dignity that you have as a human being, F them. So, yeah, the whole glass house, that it's more like a glass dollhouse that too many of the notable comic skaters live in. Why am I talking about comic skaters in this comic book? You'll get it in a moment. The glass houses that they live in are ridiculous. You know, attack, 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 attack. This person called me an a-hole and blocked me. Yeah, bunch of pussies. And even the ones who are really prominent, who are like, well, when I was in the military, shut up, New Army. Shut up, New Army. Go get your little freaking stress card and go cry to, go cry to Top about how, in fact, Top will probably tell you to man up and shut up, all right? And if you don't know what a Top is, it's because you weren't in the military. But what do you go to your CO. They're usually the ones who'd be like, were you treated bad? I'm sorry. Are you okay? Would you like a Jolly Rancher? What color would you like? You know what I'm saying? The candy drill sergeants that we would call them back in basic. Like, just, you know what? You sissy little mealy mouth crying, complaining, yellow belly, yellow, interesting color, sapsucker. All right? Shut up, you pussy. Straight up pussy. All right? That being said, you'd figure that Dan Slott by now would be over that nonsense. I read this comic book, and I got to the point where they started talking about, it's the bad users who were sent back in with fire and all these terrible things are going to try and, attack us and burn the whole thing to the ground. You know what? I'm going to try and talk to these guys. But you already tried to talk to these guys and it didn't work. You just banned them. You just blocked them. So they now blocked you. You get it? That's what just happened in this comic book. I'm going to try and talk to these users who are stuck in this mind control and see if they can get out of this mind control. All these users have blocked you. It was worth a try. But that's not how the actual conversation went on YouTube, was it? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just... Not on YouTube, excuse me, on Twitter. It's usually Twitter. Trolls love Twitter. Troll-in-Chief loves Twitter. Look, man. I am not interested in reading that stuff. That was just boring. And it also kind of showed you to be the bad guy, Mr. Slott, because... I don't think that he is the bad guy, but he wrote himself as the bad guy because this is clearly, with evidence, this is demonstrably built off of that idea. Like, maybe I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? I blocked people. I put instant block on people instead of actually, that's what you're admitting to at this point. As opposed to saying, no, I blocked the people who were jerks or who associated with jerks, which is fully reasonable, plausible. You know what I'm saying? To me, I boot people off of the YouTube channel. You can't visit my YouTube channel anymore if I've blocked you. Unless you come on incognito, then you can't comment. You can't like or dislike. You can create a new user profile, but that's an awful lot of work. And be a jerk. I will boot you again. It is so much easier for me to just say boot, as opposed to, you remaking a whole new identity and verifying it on Gmail and then coming back over to YouTube and making that identity and verifying it. No, it's so much easier for me to just right-click, hide from channel. Bye. And I've got no problem with that, and I don't feel sorry about a single one of the people I've ever done that to. And I've probably done that to about a dozen people over my 2-year time on YouTube. Probably a dozen people. Dan Slott's done that to way more. And here, it seems like he's thinking that maybe he made a mistake. I'm not interested in any mea culpas or otherwise. This bothered me. Now the thing that really bothered me, I'm already 15 minutes in. Oh well. See the cover? Remember the solicit in issue 7, the issue prior to this? Remember the promise that was made? Demon in a bottle. We're going to revisit Demon in a Bottle. I have owned my own businesses before, small businesses that just whatever. Technically, Comic Book University is a business, so like things along those lines, little things like that. Projects that I've done for college, for university. You got to get the time in rather than interning for somebody else and learning their sometimes reprehensible marketing techniques. I decided to just make my own company and get the experience that way. And the initiative that I took was very well rewarded. All right. I've always done well in school, despite never doing homework. I have, however, ran a division before in a pretty big company. Coincidentally enough, it was the marketing division. I have graduate studies in business administration with a specialty in marketing. Today, I just teach English online to kids in China. That's how I make my money today. No, I don't make a lot of money doing YouTube because I don't do much with it, Plus, I think most of you guys just skip through the ads anyway. It shows. So Comic Book University is not particularly profitable for me. This is just me to talk about comic books, the comic books that I like, of which this really doesn't quite meet that mold. Marketing is, you walk a fine line in marketing. The customer wants you to do an awful lot. When you actually run a division, you realize that it's not just the customer you're dealing with. You're actually dealing with the company itself. The first team, the first division, you could say, the first department that will ever be cut from any group. It's not the janitors. It's not the executives. They're not even going to take a pay cut. You will never see corporate executives taking a pay cut. I have never seen that happen in my life. 43 years old. I've never seen that happen in my life. And I've worked in 3 continents in 4 countries. Technically 5. I began work in Kuwait. Never actually panned out. But what do you call it? The marketing department is always the first one cut. And there are many really great lessons I learned in university about companies that allowed competition to seep in when before there was no competition, because they either got comfortable with being on top, so they went lax on their marketing, or the company actually went under because they couldn't keep up with the other companies because they lapsed on their marketing. Hint for the future: do not cut your marketing department. It's the only thing that's going to keep you in the public eye. The only thing. The only thing. So when I see this marketed, and mind you, marketing in comic books only appeals to other comic book fans. You don't see TV commercials for comic books. It's just never going to happen. It's not profitable enough for them to do that, in their opinion. They were thinking about other ways to do it, and I hope that they really do. And I would love to have an opportunity to work on the marketing team for comic book companies. Any comic book company. I don't care how small they are. I would love to have the opportunity and show people how marketing would actually help. I would just need a budget. That's all I need, is a budget. And an occasional yes. Here, I don't know what Dan Slott had to do with this. Oh, my computer just went to sleep screen. Please come on. Jeez, that's annoying. I don't know what Dan Slott had to do with it. I imagine Dan Slott's just writing comic books, and he's got to give the solicits, in advance to his editors and the executives and whatnot, and then they communicate to. I really doubt Dan Slott is in charge of the goddamn marketing for this comic book and the solicits and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like when the solicits go out, where they go out. More specifically, when they go out. So when this issue, the cover, the solicit in the previous issue, the promises that were made, said that this comic book was going to be Demon in a Bottle, revisited. In my head, I thought to myself, they're not really going to do that. Because I've noticed with a lot of Dan Slott comic books, and with many DC titles, that's not what they do. They will kind of jump the gun. The solicit that was supposed to be, I believe that the solicits that we got in issue 7 should have been the solicits in this comic book, because the whole demon in a bottle thing was something that happened in the final 2 panels of this comic book. The comic book in and of itself, I tried to find all the good parts that I liked about the story and all that stuff, but all of it was exceedingly diminished. Almost sounds like an oxymoron, right? Until you pay attention to the verbiage use. The whole comic book just felt depleted to me, because every single page, every panel, every word bubble, every text block, every thought bubble, there were very few thought bubbles in here. Every single thing that I read, every single picture that I looked at was all in the expectation that Demon in a Bottle would rear its ugly head. The greatest story ever in Iron Man's history. Yes, greater than Armor Wars. The first one. The second one, I do not acknowledge that beast ever existed. So, we were promised Demon in a Bottle in this issue, but it seems like we're going to get that in the next issue. Maybe it'll be in the next arc. I don't know. I don't care anymore. Not entirely. I barely care anymore. We were lied to. That feeling that you have, if you read this comic book and you felt that something was missing, yeah, it's the storyline that we were promised. That's what's missing. If you felt really bad after having read this, you felt like you were cheated somehow, please understand, I completely verify that. This is very scientific at this point. This is the scientific method. You have a theory, you have an hypothesis, and you continue trying to disprove that until you come to a theory. And then once you've disproved every other aspect of the science around it, it becomes a law. We're pretty much at law at this point. If we were at true law, we're at theory. Let's just say we're at theory. If we were at actual law, I would just fall off this comic book entirely. Everything I wanted to love about this comic book fell pretty much flat. Because at the end of this comic book, I felt like I imagine many of you felt. I felt like a chump. I felt like somebody who was flat out lied to. All right? You know that feeling when you and me, I'm not huge on believing in politicians. I get very political, of course, but I do that because I want there to be less government oversight on certain things, just less government on certain things. Other things I want more government on. Please protect our goddamn environment. I would like there to be a future for my children, much like I had a future when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm living that right now. I would like there to be a future. You know what I'm saying? I don't want companies just to be able to pollute whatever they want to pollute. I want there to actually be discernible actions for those. But at the same time, I don't want you to come and arrest me if I jaywalk, because I'll determine what's safe for me. I don't think that you should, but somehow they have the right to. I don't like the idea that people get so into what happens in a woman's body. I just don't like that, especially when they're making it harder and harder for people to get health care. It's like, save the fetus, F the kid, right? Taking school lunches out of schools. Yeah, I get very political because I have very strong opinions on that. One of these days I'll actually have a channel where I only talk about politics. Don't worry, Comic Book University isn't going anywhere. But, when there are a lot of people who feel more strongly about politicians than I do, about individual politicians. This person's the big hope. This person's the big hope. The last time that I ever felt that I believed in a politician was Barack Obama. In his first year, he did a fairly good job. He got the Nobel Peace Prize, and with good cause. It seemed like he was going on a goodwill tour around the world, apologizing for past transgressions that Americans have taken. A lot of people thought, "Oh, that's so weak." No, the hardest words you can ever say in the English language, or any languages as far as I'm concerned, especially in the culture that I live in, is "I'm sorry." It's the hardest damn words you can ever say, because most people don't even mean them when they say them. Doubling down, that's the term of the day, right? But Barack Obama in his second term, he wasn't interested in going for a second Nobel Peace Prize, wasn't he? Ramped up 2 wars into 7, started drone strikes, the systematic killing of United States citizens, according to the United States Constitution and all the amendments and the articles therein. Even if you don't like a particular American citizen because of his name or his religion or whatever, screw you. Every single one of us have the right to habeas corpus, which is essentially the first time that British Empire, people have ever went to a king and demanded a right. The right was habeas corpus. Please, go look it up. Pay attention to it, study it. Realize just how important, how crucial it is to who we are, and understand that Obama took that away from us. Obama took that away from us. I would love to believe in AOC. I would love to believe in Bernie Sanders. I believe in their policies, what they say, but I have a hard time trusting politicians because Barack Obama turned out to be one of the biggest scumbags this face of the planet. I understand why people voted for Trump. Even though I've known about him since I was 12 years old, I knew that he was a scumbag. You know what I'm saying? I refused to vote during that time, but there were a lot of people who didn't live in New York, New Jersey, who didn't know who Donald Trump is. You're starting to learn now that tax returns are coming back, and you're realizing the very, very, very top 1% rich people, the 0.1% of the top 1%, have gotten the best tax returns they've ever gotten in their lives. It's never been better for them. But for all the rest of us, for 80% of Americans, God damn it, it's the worst time that we've ever lived in. Yeah. I don't believe in politicians. So I understand when people get their hopes up about politicians and then they realize afterwards they've been treated like a chump. How do I relate that back to this comic book? Well, having formerly worked in marketing division and being very politically minded, I realized that this comic book does something very similar. Again, I doubt that Dan Slott had anything directly to do with this, but when you advertise that Demon in a Bottle is going to, or Revisited, Demon in a Bottle Revisited is going to be in issue number 8 of a comic book, and it's only the last 2 panels, you lied to us. There is no skating around this. There is no, what actually, don't you double down on, don't anything. And what's probably going to happen is you're just going to ignore it. You know what I'm saying? I don't advertise my videos out there like all that. I make my videos and I leave them. And I trust that if you like the video, you'll like it, you'll comment on it, and you'll maybe share the video out there. But I have no interest in actually contacting this person or that person and saying, hey, look at my video. I have no interest in doing that. But other people are more than welcome to do that. In this particular regard, I really do hope that C.B. Cebulski does see this. Marvel wants to do a fresh start. I've got your fresh start for you. How about you stop lying to the customers? There was an S Guardians of the Galaxy cover that I complained about, I think it was 3 issues ago. Issue number 4, I think it was, where they promised Undead Thor versus Angela. Undead Thor didn't even make an appearance in the comic book, nor in the comic book after that. I just reviewed the comic book, issue number 8, I think it was, whatever the hell issue it was. Let me see. Issue number, you know what, who cares? Oh, it's over here, duh. Still haven't typed the stuff in yet. Issue number 6, okay? And Thor's not in this one either. There was no Undead Thor in the comic book, so I'm still waiting. Still waiting. We were lied to. You lied to us on a cover. You solicited it. You promised that was going to happen in the next issue. That did not happen. You lied. There's no word around it. There's no alternative facts. There's no fake news. No, you are the fake news. You lied to us. You lied to us about Demon in the Bottle Revisited happening this issue. It did not. You can call this a prequel to that. This is where you're supposed to do those solicits. Next issue is where you're supposed to show this cover. You lied to us. This damages the trust in an industry where we already know that it's not doing so well. All the excuses in the world, it's not doing as well. It's my generation that reads comic books. The younger generations, we're trying to get them into reading comic books. But it's like trying to get people to buy magazines, nowadays, which comic books used to be considered magazines. Still technically are, by the way, that you can actually return them. Actually in stores, but no, they're not sold in retail stores anymore. So no, the comic books have actually done a pretty good job at prolonging their life, a lot longer than they had any right to, I'd imagine. But there were some good marketing plans there. Comic book stores, support comic book stores. Now they're trying to go the digital route. That could work. Could work. Either way, there's a fine line in marketing. There's a fine line between promoting something and either hyping it or lying about it. A very fine line. The closer you get to that line, the more reprehensible you are as a human being. The less dependable you are as an empathetic human being with a soul, the less likely you are to be a scumbag. If I were in charge of, and be happy that I'm not, if I were in charge of the marketing division in Marvel, anybody who was involved in the advertisement of this comic book being Demon in the Bottle Revisited would be suspended for 1 month without pay. Yeah. You can laugh at it. Bill. Oh, this silly YouTube reviewer. And you're right. That's all I am, is a silly YouTube reviewer. Sometimes people call me an influencer. I think that this is absolutely reprehensible. And if this video ever does get to CB Sobalski or anybody involved in the marketing team, if you actually do care about the customers, you will make a public apology. I don't think that we need I'm going to speak for myself, but in general, I don't think that we need a refund. I paid $4.99 cover price for this, U.S. price, but I paid in Canada because I'm in Canada right now. U.S. citizen in Canada. Hi. So it was closer to $8. But yeah, this deserves an apology. And understand what an apology actually is. An apology isn't, oh, oops. No. An apology is, okay, we let this get ahead of ourselves. We're talking to, you can even say reprimanding, but just talking to the people. Nobody's going to lose pay. Nobody's going to get, the stuff that Bill suggests is not going to happen. I'm fine with that. We talk to the people and we are reevaluating. Now, don't even say reevaluating. That's such a corporate word. That's something I would say in a press release. That's disgusting. It's disgusting, inherently. We are just rectifying that mistake. And that's exactly what it was. It was a mistake. That should not have happened. We should not have advertised something being what it is not, when it's at best a prequel. This is something that should be a very public apology. This is something that should show up in some of the comic book, news sites, not just a quick thing on Twitter, some cop-out. No, this should actually be a real thing, or maybe even something in the comic book itself that will eventually make it into the news sites. But I think that would go a long way to rebuilding a level of trust, because this isn't talked about enough. It happens in DC Comics a lot. This is the second time that I'm noticing it happening majorly in Marvel Comics. It's going to become a trend this way. The less that we talk about it, the less that we take responsibility for what we purchase and how we choose to spend our dollars, our very hard-earned dollars. Yeah. There's a guy who was talking about, half of my tax return, my very small tax return from this crappy year, this crappy cycle, is going towards comic books. What a shame if they bought a comic book like this and they thought that it was going to be something that it's actually not. I don't like feeling like a chump. I don't like being lied to. I don't think anybody does. But this should be apologized for. Try and turn this into something positive. Try and turn this into something that's going to make people say, oh shoot, they're actually listening. I don't think that I can continue with this comic book like this. You know what I'm saying? I'm really bothered. I'm genuinely bothered by this. I could get hopping mad over being cheated like this. This deserves an apology. I feel like I should be apologized to. I think that all of us who bought this thinking that this was going to be what they marketed it as, Demon in a Bottle Revisited, I think that we should be apologized to. Because it's not like, oh, the story didn't quite live up to that. No, 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 no. They clearly jumped the gun on this. This cover should have been the cover for issue 8. The solicits for this comic book should have been the solicits for issue 8. Excuse me, this is issue 8. Issue 9. I rescind those. Issue 9. This should have been for issue 9, the next issue. There's no other way to pepper this. We were lied to. Marvel lied to us. Sit on that for a little while. Let it ferment. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.